Historical Perspective, Part 5. The concluding article. Azimuth, A Historical Perspective, Part 1. Beginning a multi-part overview of historical events surrounding azimuth biochemicals and its connection to the mysterious salvation. On the 29th of October 3306, an abandoned megaship named the Adamastor arrived in the Changchun system after traveling at sublime speeds for nearly 200 years. At the time, no one could have foreseen the wide-ranging consequences that would arise from unlocking the secrets of this ghost ship. Investigations revealed that it had been owned by a little-known and long-defunct corporation called Azimuth Biochemicals. The derelict's journey was traced to the previously unexplored Coalsack Nebula, where the Adamastor had collected the survivors of a planetary survey team from the Misc Dark Region PJP P6-1 system. Back in 3111, these geologists had encountered something terrifying and completely unknown. The first recorded instance of contact with the Thargoids. According to team leader Professor Carver, whose final log was discovered on HIP 692001b, a recovered alien artifact caused equipment malfunctions and delusions among the crew. The damaged Adamastor was abandoned to finally return home on autopilot 2 centuries later. Further exploration of the Coalsack Nebula uncovered nothing more, but did lead to the detection of new barnacle sites. The Alliance wasted no time in harvesting these for meta-alloys, followed by a serious corporation project to terraform Ammonia World. A resurgence of attacks from Thargoid vessels followed, suggesting that the alien species was as territorial as ever. In April 3307, the Adamastor began receiving a long-range encrypted signal. A decryption key for this was provided by an anonymous source who identified himself only as Salvation. Tracking the signal led to the wreck of the Hesperus, the Adamastor's sister ship. This had disappeared in 3113 and was now drifting in the Perseus Dark Region KCVC-22 system. The distress call had been triggered by a dredger occupied by the nomadic Scrivener's clan, who had salvaged the Hesperus's data drives. Messages leaked from the dredger revealed how the Hesperus had been taken over by sleeper agents from Pharmasapien, the corporate rivals of Azimuth Biochemicals. This resulted in the deaths of all except a scientific team who had escaped aboard a secondary craft. 2 months later, the enigmatic Salvation asked pilots to track down the Hesperus's signal beacons to find those missing Azimuth crew members. The secondary craft, named Proteus, was subsequently discovered on a moon in the trapezium sector YUX-12 system. Its crew had transformed it into a research facility to study relics from a nearby ancient battleground between the Guardian and Thargoid races. The security officer's log told of Azimuth's real purpose: locate non-human technology and weaponize it for the military market. The scientists had conducted dangerous experiments on Guardian crystals, accidentally triggering a radiation surge which wiped them all out. It seemed that Azimuth's story ended there, nearly 200 years ago. But the fate of the Proteus would have enormous repercussions for the future of the galaxy. Azimuth, A Historical Perspective, Part 2. A summary of key events around the rise and fall of the tri-superpower organization Aegis. The Alliance, Empire and Federation created Aegis in 3303 to lead xenological research and coordinate defensive action against the Thargoids. With fears that the alien species might one day overwhelm human-controlled space, Aegis's role was to spearhead the resistance against a common enemy. There were concerns that Aegis might adopt the same practices as its notorious predecessor Indra, which had been formed back in 3125 during the First Thargoid War. But the new agency was welcomed by most, providing intelligence on Thargoid activity as well as advanced weapons. Since capital battleships were vulnerable.
System scan complete.
To the Thargoid shutdown field, Aegis soon had no choice but to rely heavily on independent pilots to perform ship-to-ship combat. And despite its effectiveness at coordinating defense, it was criticized for having no strategy to actually defeat the alien threat. By 3306, Aegis already showed signs of decline. Its Eagle Eye detection network had ceased to provide warnings about Thargoid attacks, and there were no new developments in anti-Xeno weaponry. The rise of the NMMA had altered the political landscape, with funding for Aegis being redirected toward countering the terrorists and preparing for possible federal imperial war. In March 3307, the Galactic Summit failed to ratify the Sirius Treaty, which would have united superpowers, corporations, and independent systems against the Thargoids. Instead, Aegis was directed to undertake new research into the Guardians. Their extinct civilization was thought to hold the key to outmatching the Thargoids' biomechanical technology. A successful initiative in May 3307 resulted in enormous quantities of Guardian artifacts being delivered to the Aegis megaship Alexandria. Thargoid vessels were drawn to this concentration of technology created by their ancient enemy and pursued the Alexandria from system to system. When the megaship did not emerge from a hyperspace jump, it was assumed to have been intercepted and destroyed. An independent board of inquiry was established to investigate the loss of the Alexandria. So thorough was this investigation that most of Aegis's activities were suspended, and many leading figures forced to resign. Public confidence in the agency was low, with a general sense that it was no longer fit for purpose. In November 3307, Aegis was brought further into disrepute when its chief military liaison went rogue. Admiral Aidan Tanner led an unauthorized assault against Hind Mine in the T-Tauri system, the headquarters of Salvation's corporate ally Taurus Mining Ventures. Tanner was convinced that Salvation's activities deliberately provoked the Thargoids and that the staff report contained evidence of this. His actions would result in failure and court-martial, accelerating Aegis's fall from grace. The Bauman Report, which published the inquiry's findings in January 3308, exposed endemic weaknesses including negligence, poor management, and the treatment of pilots as disposable mercenaries. The casualties resulting from the Alexandria disaster and the Hive Mine attack were the final nails in the agency's coffin. The Alliance, Empire, and Federation announced that Aegis would be replaced by devolved anti-Xeno task forces. Its support megaships, still
Warning. Temperature critical.
during Thargoid incursions, were crewed by volunteers until the Combat Logistics Corporation Frontline Solutions agreed to operate them. Even after the true fate of the Alexandria was discovered, along with data supporting Admiral Tanner's suspicions, the collapse of Aegis was by now irreversible. For in recent months,
Warning. Taking damage.
Salvation had achieved impressive results on a scale that no military power could hope to match. Delivery campaign.
Heatsink deployed.
Eclipse's rival. Pilots Federation alert. The Alliance Assembly has approved the Alliance Sirius Defense Pact. Azimuth, a historical perspective, Part 3. An overview of how Aegis was impacted by the rise of Salvation as a competing anti-Xeno force. For now I cannot provide you with my credentials. Suffice to say that I am a man of science, unconnected with modern politics. I am recruiting agents to investigate the work undertaken by Azimuth Biochemicals 200 years ago, which I believe to be of enormous scientific importance. Much has been lost in that time, but our dedication will allow us to read history. This was how the anonymous figure known only as Salvation introduced himself to Pilots Federation members in April 3307. Faceless and voiceless, he remains unseen to the present day. His messages characterized him as a dedicated scientist, one with enormous confidence in achieving his goal to destroy the Thargoids and save all of humanity. It was clear that Salvation possessed detailed knowledge about Azimuth biochemicals, without which the heavy... Egress would not have been discovered. He began recruiting independent pilots to undertake missions via the intermediary of Taurus Mining Ventures, a corporation based in the remote T-Tauri system. After locating the Proteus in June 3307, Salvation claimed exclusive rights to exploit the ancient Guardian Thargoid battleground on Trapezium. Sector UXC-121A. This was contested by Aegis, but their initiative to gather Guardian artifacts from the site was eclipsed by Taurus Mining Ventures' campaign. In a short time, Salvation successfully emerged as a rival to Aegis, claiming that the Tri-Superpower Agency could not be trusted. This was reinforced after the tragic loss of the Alexandria megaship. Due to its cargo of Guardian artifacts, Thargoids had relentlessly pursued the megaship before it vanished in hyperspace. An independent inquiry into the disaster ordered Aegis' operations to be suspended, leaving an absence that Salvation was keen to exploit. In September 3307, Salvation warned of an impending Thargoid attack in the Khonsar system, apparently detected by his version of Eagle Eye. Aegis and local factions dismissed this as highly unlikely, but nevertheless Thargoid vessels did swarm into the system. Salvation again reached out to pilots and asked them to transport vital equipment from a Taurus Mining Ventures megaship to Khonsar for a prototype weapon that he was constructing. A counter-initiative took place by commanders who distrusted Salvation or supported Aegis, illustrating that each now had their supporters among the galactic community. 4 days later, the Thargoid invasion force unexpectedly vanished from Khonsar. Most withdrew into hyperspace, but crashed alien vessels remained on some planetary bodies. Salvation revealed he had developed an anti-Xeno superweapon capable of eliminating the Thargoid presence from an entire star system. I have achieved what Aegis could not, an effective deterrent against the alien threat. The nature of this incredible new weapon remained unclear. The evidence of Guardian technology later found in Khonsar raised a disturbing possibility. Did Salvation really detect the approaching Thargoid fleet, or did he deliberately attract the Thargoids to Khonsar by stockpiling huge quantities of Guardian artifacts, as happened on the Alexandria, in order to test his prototype superweapon? As a Vox Galactica report put it, time will tell if Salvation's ambition to replace Aegis is a noble goal, if we are replacing the devil we know with a darker demon. Pro-Sirius delivery campaign eclipses rival. Pilots Federation alert. The Alliance Assembly has approved the Alliance-Sirius Defense Pact, with a final vote upholding the motion. Members of the Assembly have been evenly split on the issue of ratifying anti-Xeno military cooperation between
Breaching drive operating beyond safety limits.
the Alliance and Sirius
Breaching drive supercharged.
Corporation. The efforts of the pro-pact councillors to collect resources for the Alliance Defense Force swayed the final few votes to their side. The Alliance has confirmed that a greater number of commodities were delivered to the Sirius Corporation megaship Kumaho Sky than to Proust Terminal, which Sol Salutis Aeternum offered as a delivery point. These resources will be ceremonially presented for allocation by the Council of Admirals in the coming days. The Yol Rui has welcomed the result and has expressed optimism for the future of the Anti-Xeno Pact. Anti-Sirius campaign leaders have confirmed that they will contribute all campaign donations to the Alliance Defense Force as a goodwill gesture. Sirius Corporation has announced that those who delivered computer components, reinforced mounting plates and synthetic reagents can collect rewards from Kumaho Sky, including a unique pre-engineered high-capacity Axe fixed missile launcher for the majority of contributors. Sol Salutis Aeternum has also prepared rewards for its supporters at Proust Terminal, including a new Alliance chieftain for the top 25 contributors. Superpowers stand with Azimuth. The Alliance, Empire and Federation will continue collaborating with Salvation and Azimuth Biotech on anti-Xeno. Azimuth, A Historical Perspective, Part 4. A look at the rivalry between Aegis and Salvation during the escalating war against the Thargoids. Salvation's success in purging the Thargoid presence from the Khonsar system had many repercussions, not least from the aliens themselves. Several inhabited nebulas were suddenly overrun with Thargoid vessels, leading some to believe they were reacting aggressively to the Guardian-based nature of the anti-Xeno superweapon. Aegis's hands were tied by the ongoing public inquiry. Chief Military Liaison Admiral Aidan Tanner was convinced that the superweapon was designed to attract Thargoids as well as repel them. Claiming that evidence for this could be found at Hind Mine in the T-Tauri system, he commanded the megaship Musashi to launch an assault. This was a battle that Taurus Mining Ventures won with much support from independent pilots, showing how much faith was now placed in Salvation. Tanner was court-martialed and the captured Musashi became the flagship of Salvation's growing forces. Commodore Morag Halliran, formerly of the Alliance Defense Force, took command and became his military coordinator. By December 3307, the Alliance, Empire and Federation had officially acknowledged that Salvation possessed the technology required to defeat the Thargoids. This assumption was then put to the test when the Delphi, Maya and Merib systems suffered simultaneous full-scale invasions. Once again the Thargoids were routed following the detonation of 3 newly constructed superweapons, repeating Salvation's success at Khonsar. His triumphant proclamations now verged on the messianic "I urge the peoples of the galaxy to unite behind my crusade. Aegis is finished. I am the only remaining defense for humanity. I am Salvation." By this point, public opinion towards Salvation was generally positive. Volunteers flocked to Taurus Mining Ventures to offer support, with naval crews from the superpowers defecting to take part in battling the Thargoids. Secondment to Salvation's forces soon became officially authorized, showing an increasing acceptance of the anonymous scientists' methods and results. January 3308 saw a number of...
Alright, I'm sorry, I'm finally home. I actually got sent out on an errand like an hour ago, or something like that. Oh, cool. Playing Completely Dangerous, got it. Okay. Well, I can open up Steam, and if we're going to play GTFO, that's something I will have to get. I already installed it, I just haven't installed it, just haven't played it yet.
The Bowman report delivered a damning indictment of the agency's operations, concluding that it should be shut down. The 3 superpowers began using their own militaries to replace Aegis with separate anti-Xeno task forces. A more surprising event that month was the discovery of debris from the missing megaship Alexandria, scattered across the planetary rings of Rego TCXB2920AB2. A Captain Morales' report revealed that the ship had emerged from hyperspace off course due to sabotage before being raided by a quasi-military force which hijacked its cargo of Guardian artifacts. The surviving crew's attempt to restart the damaged hyperdrive was the cause of the Alexandria's destruction. Morales also mentioned that the raiders were obeying orders from someone named the Witch. This detail was seized upon by Aegis's remaining leaders, who matched it to abandoned research facilities found in August 3307 within the HIP 22460 and HIP 26176 systems. These were the sites of the mysterious Project Seraph, an attempt to install human pilots into a captured Thargoid scout. Both the Witch and Azimuth were referenced in its surviving logs. Aegis's warning was clear. Azimuth biochemicals, which were supposedly liquidated 2 centuries ago, had survived to the present day. Superpowers stand with Azimuth. The Azimuth, A Historical Perspective, Part 5. The concluding article in this series examines events leading to the resurrection of Azimuth and Salvation's plans for the future. During February and March 3308, Aegis suffered a slow death as its operations were shut down by the superpowers. Its leaders continued calling for its reinstatement, not just to battle the Thargoids, but also to oppose Azimuth biochemicals. They claimed that this sinister corporation was still performing unlicensed xenological research and was responsible for thousands of deaths. Meanwhile, the number of Thargoid incursions was increasing, perhaps in response to Salvation's Guardian-based superweapon. This culminated in a simultaneous invasion of the DDO, Novas and Sosong systems in April 3308. These were major population centers for the Alliance, Empire and Federation respectively, with over 10 million lives at risk. Salvation and the superpower militaries responded in concert. Allied, Imperial and Federal capital ships were deployed to coordinate system defenses and also host the construction of 3 new superweapons. Interviews with the admirals in charge of the anti-Xeno task forces provided an insight into how much they now relied on Salvation. The superweapons were successfully detonated in all 3 systems, but this time there were no wreckages left behind. It was unclear if these particular weapons were less effective, or if the Thargoids had anticipated their use and retreated before their vessels could be disrupted. This was nevertheless hailed as another victory for Salvation. He announced that he was working on the next generation of the devices, which would deliver a truly overwhelming strike against the Thargoid species. Increased amounts of personnel, supplies and equipment were provided to Taurus Mining Ventures to hasten development of the superweapon. In May 3308 came a shocking revelation. Professor Albert Research at Aegis received a tip-off leading to an abandoned outpost in the DG Canaan Venaticorum system. This turned out to be a previously undiscovered base for INRA, the Intergalactic Naval Reserve Arm, which was formed to combat the Thargoids during the 32nd and 33rd centuries. The base provided evidence
Ava's online.
contracted Azimuth biochemicals
Yeah,
to aid development of the mycoid virus. This was a highly controversial.
Yeah, he is, but he's not responding anything yet.
151 to infect the aliens' mothership, and which helped bring about the end of the First Thargoid War. Logs recorded by Dr. Caleb Witcherly, the corporation's vice president of research, explained how he gave the nickname which after being half-blinded by a live Thargoid specimen. He then vowed that under his guidance, Azimuth would devote himself to the destruction of the Thargoids. If I must be humanity's salvation, then so be it. The former leaders of Aegis claimed that this verified their theory Salvation and the Witch were the same person, and Azimuth had been operating in the shadows for decades. Professor Tesro later revealed that the tip-off came from Subject D2, the only survivor of the Project Seraph experiments to create a human test pilot for Thargoid ships. Some believed Aegis had fabricated these logs, since Dr. Witcherly would now be over 200 years old. But although Salvation did not overtly confirm his true identity, Aegis's suspicions were validated when Taurus Mining Ventures rebranded itself as Azimuth Biotech. Salvation described how Azimuth's research division had survived as an independent organization under his control, focused exclusively on Thargoid research and preparing for interspecies conflict. There was a public outcry that the man claiming to be humanity's savior was also responsible for the mycoid bioweapon, Project Seraph, the attack on the Alexandria, and other illegal or unethical activities. And yet there was little reaction from the Alliance, Empire or Federation, whose militaries were now fully committed to working with Salvation to defeat the Thargoids. In the past week, there have been signs that Azimuth Biotech is mobilizing its forces and preparing for a large-scale operation of some kind. This may well tie in with Salvation's promise to unveil a more powerful type of anti-Xeno superweapon. We may soon learn if Azimuth can repeat history and deliver the decisive blow to end to the Second Thargoid War. Azimuth, A Historical Perspective, Part 4. A look at the rivalry between Aegis and Salvation during the escalating war against the Thargoids. Salvation's success in purging the Thargoid presence from the Cornsar system had many repercussions, not least from the aliens themselves. Several inhabited nebulas were suddenly overrun with Thargoid vessels, leading some to believe they were reacting aggressively to the Guardian-based nature of the anti-Xeno superweapon. Aegis's hands were tied by the ongoing public inquiry, but its chief military liaison Admiral Aidan Tanner was convinced that the superweapon was designed to attract Thargoids as well as repel them. Claiming that evidence for this could be found at Hind Mine in the T-Tauri system, he commanded the megaship Musashi to launch an assault. This was a
Scan detected.
that Taurus Mining Ventures won with much support from independent pilots, showing how much faith was now placed in Salvation. Tanner was court-martialed and the captured Musashi became the flagship of Salvation's growing forces. Commodore Morag...
Copy. Deploying the fighter now. Telepresence online. Awaiting your orders. Affirmative. Maneuvering to attack position.
Target ship is offline.
Sorry, I've been discussing some stuff with a friend of Avis that I actually met him through, or met Avis through. So I'm trying to short out some details on sort of being range. Sorry, that's Callie.
Enemy wiped out. Standing by. Automated docking ready to commence.
Scan detected.
Crap, where's my phone?
Retrieval process complete, Commander.
Hey! I did somehow, even though I don't remember turning them on. Been really good about it lately. My mic. Shouldn't be. Hold on. Check. That's weird. Hold on, let me adjust my audio. That's not ideal considering I got this for $5 at Five Below over a year ago, and it's been really good to me, you know. Maybe it was $10. I don't know. It was a really cheap mic, and it actually works really well. It sounds good now. Maybe it was just my AC or something. I moved my phone away from the mic. So I sat down, my mic was near the phone when I sat down. Oh shit, forgot what I was doing. Keep getting sidetracked.
Landing gear deployed. Scan detected.
That growl though. Again? What the fuck? How about now? Ah, loose connection.
Landing successful.
I literally reached down and wiggled the fucking USB and it was fine.
Yes, bonk. Wasn't necessary for you. Is this the scene? Yep. Anyway, AFK. I'm back. Anyway. Yes. I'm live here, YouTube, and Twitch. Yes. Okay, let's see here. Change account. Right, I need to shut down voice attack. Excuse me. Log out. Where's my USB? There it is. Unplug my flight stuff. Okay. Ouch. Ow. Okay. GTFO. Launching. Something's wrong. Scratch that. I'm going to restart Steam entirely. Certain things aren't showing when they should be. Shut down Steam. Restart. I can unplug this. Weird. Am I offline on Steam? Shouldn't be. That's why. Fucking family view. Whatever, the issue's resolved now. Launching. Oh, right there. Okay. There we go. Game capture. Why isn't it seeing GTFO at all? Are you fucking kidding? Great. Okay, this is actually obnoxious. OBS is being retarded. Fucking hell. I think I'm gonna